All right, good evening. This is going to be Calculus Test 1 Prep, and I'm just going to go through the problems here and show you kind of what's expected with it. Okay, so we can see here, evaluate the limit, square root, that should be an x squared minus 2 divided by x plus 3. Evaluate the limit, square root of x plus 3 minus square root of 3, all divided by x, limit goes to 0. And then we have tangent 7x divided by tangent 3x, and that should be a good first part of this video here. So let's see here. Just going to write the problem down. Square root of x squared minus 2. Okay. So we have limit. X approaches, what are we approaching? We are approaching infinity of x, is it plus 2? Minus 2. So add x squared minus 2, square root of the whole thing, divided by x plus 3. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is take a look at the kind of limit it is. It's approaching infinity, so we can't just take a number and plug it in and then see how that's going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by 1. And I'm going to multiply by 1 over x over 1 over x. But 1 over x over 1 over x, it's not going to quite do it for the top because there's a square root here. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 1 over the square root of x squared divided by 1 over x. You can see that's still 1 over x over 1 over x, and I will be able to do that. So the reason I had to do that was because this limit, x goes to 0, or x goes to infinity rather, is that I can't put like x's, or I can't put values that aren't square rooted inside of a square root like that. Okay, if I'm going to do that, they both have to have the same radical for this to work. So it's going to be the square root of, we have 5x squared minus 2 divided by x squared. No, it's all under the square root there. Okay, and again, this is all divided by, this is x plus 3 all over x. Okay, now what we're going to do is a little bit of algebra here. Okay, so we're just going to take our 5x squared over x squared, so we're going to have limit as x goes to infinity. Okay, we have the square root of, we have 5, because the x over x, that just cancels. X squared over x squared, that'll cancel. Minus 2 over x squared. This is still all inside of the square root, divided by, and then we have 1 plus 3 over x. Now, as x goes off to infinity of 3 over x, or 2 over x squared, we know what value that is. That's why we had to do this. Okay, that value is going to go to 0. Okay, so once we take the limit, okay, we're going to have the square root of 5 minus, I'm going to put 0 in quotation marks here just to show you that we took the limit, and this 2 over x squared is going to be going to a 0. Then we have 1 plus, and again, 3 over x, as that gets very large, it's going to be 1 plus 0. Okay, we don't have to write the limit anymore because we've just taken it. Our answer is just going to be the square root of 5 over 1. And there you go. And that's the kind of answer I would expect. This whole thing is the answer I would expect for something like this. Okay, you can't just tell me, oh, well, by inspection, it's square root of 5. That might be for you. That is not that way for most people who are taking the class. So you have to go through the process and show me that you know what you're doing. If you just start guessing, I'm going to say, well, I can't give you full credit because you guessed. You have to show me what you did to get the answer. Okay, so we've got that. Maybe not quite so many steps, but you have to show me what you did to get the answer. Let's see, the next problem here, limit is x goes to 0. Okay, so we have limit as x goes to 0. We have the square root of x plus 3 minus the square root of 3 all over x. Okay, And again, if I just try direct substitution, right, we get 0 plus root 3 minus root 3. So root 3 minus root 2 would be 0, divided by 0. That's not going to work. So what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate of the top. We're going to rationalize the numerator. So we're going to have the square root of x plus 3 plus the square root of 3. And then this is divided by, we have the square root x plus 3 plus the square root of 3. And then let's see what happens. So when I go ahead and do this, right, we're going to have lim x goes to 0. Okay. The square root times the square root is just going to give me the inside here. That's going to be x plus 3. This term, and we multiply that out, and this term, they are the same term, opposite values, and also opposite signs. So that's just going to be a 0 in there. The inners and the outers parts of this are just going to be zeros. Square root of 3 times square root of 3, this one here, that's just going to be 3. So minus 3. Why is it minus? Because this one's plus. This guy over here is a minus. And then I'm not going to touch the top here. I'm just going to say that's touch the bottom. We just have x. And then all I'm going to have here is root x plus 3 plus the square root of 3. Okay, and let's see what happened. This 3 and this positive 3 and this negative 3, those are going to cancel out. So we're just going to get limit as x goes to 0. And we have x over, okay, and then we have x parentheses root x plus 3 plus root 3. And there we go. The x's will cancel, x over x. And then we end up with 1 over root x plus 3 plus the square root of 3. This is still a limit, right? This is still a limit as x goes to 0. But at this point now, if I put in x equals 0, I don't have an issue, right? We're not dividing by 0. We're not getting like infinity. We're not getting a weird power like x to the 1 over 0, anything like that. So we can just plug in the 0, and we're going to get 1 over the square root of 3 plus the square root of 3. And our answer is going to be 1 over 2 square root of 3. If you want to clean this up a little bit, that's fine. You don't have to. Okay, calculus, we don't really worry about that too much. But our answer would be the square root of 3 over 2 times, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is going to be 3. 2 times 3 is going to give me 6. So that would be my answer for number 2. Okay. How about number 3? We get to an interesting one now. Okay, we have tangent of 7x divided by the sine of 3x. Okay, so we have limit as x goes to 0. As x goes to 0, we have tangent of 7x over the sine of 3x. And in here, if I plug in a 0, we get 0 over 0. Well, clearly, that's not the way to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by 1. So I'm going to say this is 1 over x divided by 1 over x. And then, rather than do the whole thing here, I might say early, I'm going to change this tangent into a 7 sine x, or sine 7x, divided by a cosine 7x, because tangent is equal to sine of a cosine, and then divided by sine of 3x. Now this is going to go in, and we're going to see what happens here. So I can rearrange these kind of the way I want, because that's how limits will work. Okay, so we have limit as x goes to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group this sine 7x and this x here, and just leave the cosine off to the side. So I've got sine of 7x over x times 1 over cosine 7x. Okay, and this is divided by, and then I have sine of 3x over x. Now this is almost, but not quite, one of the limits that we're supposed to know, right? We're supposed to know limit of sine x over x equals 0, or equals 1 rather. So we know this is true. So limit as x equals 0 of sine x, or sine theta over theta, this is equal to 1. Okay, so all we have to do is match the top, the argument, and the sign, and the denominator here. Okay, so we're going to have limit as x approaches 0. What I'm going to do to match it, I'm going to say, okay, great, we've got a 7 sine x up here, I only have an X. You know what would be great? If I could put a 7 down here, but I can't just go randomly multiplying stuff by 7. That doesn't work. My bank account would be a lot bigger. Well, 7 times bigger. So we have to multiply by 1. We're not allowed to just multiply by 7. Okay, so that's where that 7 comes from. On the bottom, the same thing. We've got sine 3x over x. And what I'm doing is multiplying by a 3 divided by a 3. Okay, and this 1 over cosine of 7x. The thing about cosine is cosine of 0 is 1. So this is a safe term. We don't have to worry about this cosine term at all. But what we're going to have here up at the top, we're going to have 7 times this limit, okay? And then this limit, sine goes, we can say limit as x goes to 0 of sine theta, 7x, divided by 7x. We know that's going to be 1. This piece here is going to be 1. Okay, divided by 3 times the limit as x approaches 0, sine of 3x over 3x. Okay, and then don't think I didn't forget about the cosine over here. It's 1 over cosine of 7x, but when that limit gets set to 0, this cosine is just going to be 1. So this thing here, right, that's going to be 1. So 7 over 3, those things don't have x's in them, so the limit's just the constant. So what we're going to end up with is 7 over 3. Okay. Now you have to show me what you're doing with this. You don't have to do quite as many steps as I did, but you do have to show me this is how you did this. You can't say, well, I've done 121 of these, so I know by inspection that this is stuff. No, you can't do that. Okay, you actually have to work it out and show me that you know what you're doing with this. Okay, so that's why that's this kind of a problem. All right, so show me your work and make sure you're doing that kind of stuff. That's to do that. But I'm going to stop the video here and post this one, and we'll probably do about 3 parts to this. Okay, so stop there.